150 years since the discovery of the first payable goldfield, 2012 was a golden year for Central Otago, with a year-long program of activities marking this occasion. These heritage celebrations were organised by the dedicated Dunstan Gold 150 Committee, and I welcome them to the stage now.
Good morning from Central Otago and our regional finalists Promote Dunstan. I'm Tony Lepper, Central's Mayor. Back in 1862, the amount of gold found in the Cromwell Gorge not only created a gold rush, it also opened up the region as a place to settle. 150 years on, it was a big year for us, and Promote Dunstan made it bigger by organising Dunstan Gold 150.
Daddy's gone to Dunstan to find gold. It's just lying on the ground where he's been told. There'll be a brand new dress for me, a big pot roast for tea, when he comes back from Dunstan in the cold.
Conditions on the Dunstan goldfield were indeed cold, much colder than today. Hello, I'm Rory Butler, President of Promote Dunstan. Gold fever struck back in August 1862 after two men arrived at the gold receiver's office in Dunedin. They had 32 kilograms of gold, worth about $2 million in today's terms. The gold rush was on.
Horatio Hartley and Christopher Riley found their El Dorado in the Clutha River using gold pans in one of these, a cradle which was gently rocked to separate the gold from the gravel.
I'm Louise Joyce, a committee member. Thousands of people descended like locusts on the rugged, desolate, unknown interior, heading to the diggings. By the end of 1862, more than 70,000 ounces of gold had been taken out by the gold escort.
2 years before the anniversary of this momentous event, Promote Dunstan called a public meeting, resulting in the Dunstan Gold 150 Committee of 8. We decided to make it a year-long celebration, although sometimes we wondered if we were quite sane when we made that decision.
The committee met regularly and discussed, suggested, accepted and rejected ideas. Our budget was $148,000. We were overjoyed to get nearly $45,000 from Central Lakes Trust. We approached community groups, clubs, schools and businesses, and as they all took up the challenge to do something, the lists grew longer, and the paperwork mounted as more events and more activities were confirmed for 2012.
They even wrote me in by organising a mayor's scavenger hunt.
We created a logo and we published our program, a 20-page brochure. 30,000 of these were delivered throughout Central and further afield. We also created a website.
They also compiled 12 full-page replicas of the 1866 Dunstan Times, which were published each month in the local newspaper. These contained the program for each month and news items from the 1860s.
We published a 60-page book that Louise wrote, celebrating the gold rush, and launched at the opening of the celebrations in January 2012. By the way, we have copies available if you'd like one.
The next day we held a 19th century style garden party in Oliver's, Clyde's most well-known historic building. Guests dressed for the occasion munched on cucumber sandwiches to the gentle sounds of a string quartet. February's busy program included a cavalcade horse trail being presented with scrolls by the Clyde school pupils, and in March...
Louise, I've got to interrupt. Dunstan Gold 150 had so many things happening that we'll be here all day if we go through them all.
Right. Well, briefly, we had a four-wheel drive tours to remote mining sites, lectures, art and photographic exhibitions, museum exhibits, a ball, a Chinese fortnight recalling the presence of the Chinese on the goldfields.
There were sports events, a bike ride through gold tailings, and Look Back in Time, where primary school pupils presented stories and poems they'd written about the gold mining days. There was also a season of Rush, a musical set in the goldfields.
The committee and Promote Dunstan were directly responsible for 14 major events. Here's a few. In May, the time capsules involved about 600 pupils from primary schools in Alexandra and Clyde. They compiled material which was buried in capsules in the school grounds. They'll be opened in 2062.
Historic Dunstan House in Clyde was host to a gold miners' gambling saloon. People arrived in costume and gambled on the cards and the roulette wheel. The highlight was a fetching performance by Arrowtown's Buckingham Bells, followed by a grand supper to end the evening.
Then came the miners' dinner in Oliver's, which was so popular we ran it for a second night. Overall, more than 160 people in a wild assortment of fancy dress ate, drank and made merry. Miscreants arrested by our sergeant-at-arms were confined to the stocks and pelted with plastic balls. Our mayor was one of them.
October was busy. It started with the construction of a 1/3 scale replica of Clyde Village, as it was in the 1860s. The men in sheds built the frames, volunteers cut and stapled canvas on them, and many hours were spent painting. The village was then displayed in the school grounds.
The next event, our biggest, was the Grand Goldfields Music Hall in true 19th century English style. The cast and crew of 26 rehearsed for weeks. Soloists sang old songs. The Gold Nuggets performed even more. Jokes, poems, and Alia Murphy sang the song written by Rory that you heard earlier. There was even a 3-act melodrama, Dunstan Abbey.
The production travelled to 4 rural central Otago communities where we had full houses, and the locals got involved by providing supper.
Another ambitious project was the Grand Parade through Clyde, where Rory got to ride in a replica Cobb & Co. stagecoach. That's him. Oh.
And what fun that was! The theme was the gold mining days, and many hundreds of people lined the streets to watch. There were community groups dressed in costumes, floats, vintage vehicles, horse riders, members of Lodge Dunstan, and the New Zealand Army Band. There was also the opening of a restored gold stamper factory at the Clyde Museum.
Our celebrations ended in December with a public unveiling of a memorial to the Chinese and European miners. Stonemason students at the Otago Polytechnic Cromwell campus built a cairn in Clyde Cemetery. We consulted Dunedin's Chinese community about the words on the plaque, which is in English and Cantonese.
It was a moving occasion for the Chinese who attended and myself. Historian Lester Wong, who unveiled the cairn, said it was the first public monument to pay tribute to the Chinese miners.
Dunstan Gold 150 was a massive project. It's estimated about 20,000 people were involved, either taking part in events or attending them. Promote Dunstan and the DG 150 members were supported by more than 30 clubs, organisations, businesses, sports groups, schools, museums and other institutions throughout the region, as well as hundreds of individuals across our community who put in thousands of voluntary hours.
Thank you, Trustpower, for this opportunity. We end with an echo from the past, a few lines from A Prospecting Man by the Alexander poet, the late Todd Simons.
Let me go where the wanderlust wills me, let me tramp with a shovel and a pan, where I fossick for gold as a young bloke, for at heart I'm a prospecting man.
And once you have searched for that metal, once you've seen bright gold gleam in the pan, as you loused over gully and creek bed, you're forever a prospecting man.
And you never know when you're digging, you just never know what you'll get. Why? I might strike it rich, start a gold rush, for there's gold in those central hills yet.
Thank you, people.
Thank you.